There's a clay tablet in the British Museum about the size of your palm, 5,000 years old. On it, a human head eating from a bowl, a jar with a pointed base, and some scratch marks. Translated, it says something astonishing. Workers, beer, received. It's a payslip, the oldest paycheck ever found, and it isn't counted in coins or silver or anything you'd call money. It's counted in beer, and this wasn't some quirky one-off. For most of recorded history, across empires that never met each other, the answer to "What will you give me for a day of my work?" was the same. Something to drink. The pyramids ran on it. The first cities ran on it. The first strike in human history was about it. So today's question sounds like a joke and turns out to be the foundation of your entire working life. Why was the first paycheck beer? Start with something so obvious nobody questions it. The job. Work in exchange for pay from someone who isn't family. You'd think that's just what humans do. It isn't. For hundreds of thousands of years, nobody had a job. What do you do for a living? Living. No, I mean, who do you work for? Everyone. Us? In a small band, you hunted, gathered, built, and cooked for the group. Because you were in the group. Nobody paid you, the same way nobody pays you today for doing the dishes at home. The economy was the household, and the household was everyone you knew. Then, as regular viewers already know, the cities arrived and broke that completely. Uruk, 5,000 years ago, tens of thousands of people, canals to dig, walls to raise, temples the size of hills. And here's the brand new problem in human history. How do you get 1,000 strangers to show up at dawn and haul mud bricks for you? They don't love you. They don't owe you. Family logic doesn't scale to 10,000 people. You have to pay them. And money, remember, barely exists yet. Silver is for temples and kings, not for the man with the shovel. So you pay the only thing everyone accepts every single day, without negotiation. Food. And its most beloved, most drinkable form, beer. Here's how the world's first payroll actually worked. In Sumer, the standard daily wage was measured in sila, roughly a liter. An ordinary worker, about 2 sila of beer a day. A foreman, more. A high official, a lot more. Your rank in the world's first bureaucracy was literally measured in how much beer you took home. Rations were so fundamental that the cuneiform sign for "to eat" for consuming your allotment is a human head next to a bowl, and the sign that shows up on tablet after tablet after tablet is the upright jar with the pointed base. Beer. Congratulations on the promotion. Thank you. 3 sila a day now. 3. What are you going to do with it all? Gloat, mostly. And before you picture ancient Sumer as one long party, this wasn't about getting drunk. Sumerian ration beer was thick, cloudy, low alcohol, full of grain, closer to a drinkable porridge than a lager. They drank it through straws to filter out the husks. It was food. Bread you didn't have to chew, calories that didn't spoil as fast as grain, water that didn't make you sick. Because brewing meant boiling, and boiled water, unlike river water, didn't kill you. Nutrition, hydration, safety, and a mild sense of well-being in one jar. Of course, it became the paycheck. And beer wasn't just wages in Sumer. It was sacred. The Sumerians had a goddess of brewing, Ninkasi, and one of the oldest surviving poems in the world is a hymn to her. Read it closely and you realize what it actually is. A recipe. Verse by verse, soak the grain, spread the mash, filter the sweet liquid, the whole brewing process set to music. Why write a recipe as a hymn? Because most people couldn't read, but everyone could sing. The instructions for making the world's paycheck were backed up in the safest database available, melody. Why is the brewery singing? That's not singing. That's documentation. And the paperwork, every jar was tracked. Temple archives are stuffed with beer accounting, who brewed, who received, how much, when. The tablet in the British Museum is exactly this, a receipt. Some of the oldest names in recorded history aren't kings or prophets. They're brewers and accountants arguing about beer. Now to the most famous construction site on Earth, Giza, Egypt, 4,500 years ago. Forget the movie version, armies of slaves under the whip. Archaeology found something else, a workers' town beside the pyramids, with bakeries, breweries, and bones showing these people ate beef and received medical care. Pyramid builders were paid laborers, organized in crews with team names scrawled on the stones like Friends of Khufu. And the pay, bread and beer. The standard ration ran to several loaves and multiple jugs a day, by some accounts 4 to 5 liters per worker. The state brewed on an industrial scale because the state's greatest monuments were, financially speaking, an enormous bar tab. So the deal is, I move 2-ton blocks all day. Yes. And you keep me in bread and beer. Correct. When can I start? And here's the part they should teach in every economics class. In 1152 BC, at the royal tomb builders' village of Deir el-Medina, the grain and beer rations came late. The workers put down their tools, marched to the temple, and sat down. They refused to work until they were paid. The first recorded strike in human history. Not over money. Money as we know it barely existed. Over rations. The paycheck was beer and bread, and when the paycheck didn't come, civilization got its first taste of organized labor. The workers won, by the way. The rations arrived. Step back and ask the real question. Out of everything an ancient state could hand a worker, why did beer work so well, everywhere, for thousands of years? Run it like an economist and it's almost spooky. A good payment needs to be valuable to everyone. Beer was food and everyone eats. It needs standard units. Beer came in jars and sila measures, ready-made denominations. It needs to be storable, grain kept for years, and brewing was how you spent it. Divisible, pour half a jug. Verifiable, taste it. In fact, the whole system worked like a bank, with barley as the deposit. The temple granary took in the harvest, kept the books, hello again, old friend, and paid it out through the year as bread and beer. Grain was the savings account, beer was the withdrawal. Standing between them, tablet in hand, the same figure as always. Beer wasn't just wages. Beer was halfway to being money. And in many places it crossed the line completely. In Mesopotamia and Egypt you find fines priced in beer, medical fees in beer, land deals settled with beer and bread thrown in on top. How much for setting my broken arm? 2 jars? And a haircut? Half a jar. Is everything beer? Everything is beer. But the economist's checklist misses the best part. Beer did one thing silver never could. It made people want to show up. Across the ancient world and in farming villages on several continents into living memory, there's the work party. You need a field cleared or a barn raised, you brew a batch, the neighbors arrive, the work gets done, the beer gets drunk, and the whole thing ends as a feast. The paycheck and the party were the same event. Payday wasn't the thing after work. Payday was the point of work, and it was fun. So what happened? Why doesn't your salary arrive in jars? Coins happened, but far more slowly than you'd think. Coins were invented around 600 BC, and still, 2,000 years later, much of the world's work was paid partly in kind. Medieval harvest workers in England negotiated their ale allowance alongside their wages. And it wasn't a tip. At harvest time, a laborer might drink several liters a day in the field, and contracts spelled it out as carefully as the pay. Monasteries brewed rivers of the stuff. Some medieval monks were allowed a gallon a day. Small beer, weak, safe boiled, was the daily drink of workers, apprentices, even children, because the water could kill you, and the beer couldn't. For 1,000 years, being employed and being supplied with beer were nearly the same sentence. But as the world marched into the 19th century, the warm logic of a day's work for bread and beer curdled into a trap. Enter the factories. Industrial bosses discovered a dark loophole. If you pay workers in stuff, you control what that stuff is worth. Company towns paid workers in tokens that only worked at the company store, at company prices. The paycheck was no longer a feast, it was a prison. Governments had to step in. Britain's truck acts and laws like them everywhere made it illegal to pay wages in anything but cash. The world's oldest paycheck, payment you could actually eat, drink, and share, was formally banned. The paycheck became a number. Your wages, sir, 5 shillings. Can you make it beer? That would now be a crime. Progress feels strange. But there was one place, one massive empire, that refused to let go of the ancient liquid wage. The Royal Navy. For 300 years, every sailor was paid a daily rum ration. It survived cannons, mutinies, steam engines, and 2 world wars. It was the ultimate survivor of the ancient world. Until July 31st, 1970, a date sailors still mourn as Black Tot Day, when the final barrel was poured, and the ledger on the liquid paycheck was closed forever. Fast forward to you. Your pay arrives as a number on a screen. No jars, no bread, no rum. The paycheck has been abstracted 3 times over. From beer to coin, from coin to paper, from paper to a database entry. You can't drink any of it. But look closer at your job, because the beer paycheck never actually died. The free lunch at the office, the coffee that's always on, the Friday drinks the company pays for, the pizza when the team ships a project, the snacks by the meeting room, stock options, gym memberships, the company phone. Economists dryly call all of it in-kind compensation, and it's a serious slice of what modern employers actually spend on you. Every company on Earth still knows the 5,000-year-old secret. Humans don't just work for numbers. They work for the feast afterward. We can't raise salaries this quarter. The team won't like it. Install a beer fridge. Sir, that's genius. It's 5,000 years old. And every payday, when the number lands and you take yourself out for a drink to celebrate, understand what you're doing. You're converting the number back, undoing the abstraction, turning the paycheck into what it was at the very beginning, at the gates of Uruk, at dawn, 5,000 years ago. So, why was the first paycheck beer? Because the paycheck is older than money. And before money, pay had to be something everyone wanted every single day. Food you could drink, safety you could taste, a small celebration at the end of the work. Beer wasn't standing in for money. It's the other way around. Money is standing in for beer. The tablets tallied the sila. The pyramids rose on bread and jugs. The sailors drank the king's rum. And this morning, a few billion people went to work for a number whose entire job is to eventually become dinner and drinks and a table with your people around it. The first paycheck was beer. Every paycheck since has just been an IOU for the party.